tell you about me. I'm Jonathan Drescher. I'm the regional manager with Intellihot. I am also a Texas master plumber. I've plumbed for 16 years before I got into the manufacturing side of things. I do keep my license current just in case. You never know. I might have to do that. This is a direct replacement for a 100-200. Straight up. Normally with tankless you need 1.5 to 2. With this you don't. The reason is A.O. Smith, Green, whoever it is, their water heaters put out about 330 gallons per hour. So does this. If we were talking residential, we'd talk gallons per minute. Commercial, gallons per hour, that's what's important. So as plumbers, you say, this thing can do 15 gallons a minute just like a tank? And I go, no. And I say, neither can a tank. And then you say, yes, it can. And I go, no, it can't. We go back and forth for a while, but the fact of the matter is, if you do 15 gallons a minute with a tank, after 3 or 4 minutes, it's already tempered water, and now you have to recover that water and get back to hot. And you can choose to prioritize temperature or flow. Now, tankless normally prioritizes temperature, and it will reduce flow. This product, because you can choose the other option, it acts more like a tank. So let's say this is sized correctly, right? You put it in, everything's perfect. Most of the time, everything's great, but every once in a while, they turn everything on out of the norm and it's just more than it can handle, right? Well, instead of reducing their flow across all fixtures, this thing's gonna say, you say you have 140 degrees, it's gonna drop down to 135, 130, whatever it can handle at that moment. But at the end of that, it's still ready with hot water. You're not waiting for recovery. So the way we see it, that's a much better place to be in. And in fact, so we have a guarantee. You take out a properly sized 100, 200, you put back one of these, we guarantee it's gonna work. And so we had someone do that, and keep in mind I said properly sized. We had these people do it. There's a 16 60-pound washing machines in the laundromat, which is ridiculous for even a 100, 200. So they put one of these in, and they didn't have a circulation pump. They called us and they said, it's not working. And so I reached out to our factory and I said, is it working? And they said, yes. The question is, how did they know it was working? Because this thing has an LTE mobile chip. So any of the ones in this cabinet hook directly to this closest cell tower. You get the bigger ones, those have to be connected to Wi-Fi. So there's an antenna in here that has to come out and sit on top of the unit. So the point is they called, they said there was no hot water. I said there was. Turned out they needed a circulation line. They just weren't getting the hot water. It's plumbed in the dumbest possible way. Long story short, they did that. It's been about 8 months, and I did check on it one time. Even though it's absolutely undersized, they've only gone above that threshold of what it can handle a couple of times for a few minutes. And we can see it. So that one day where maybe all 16 of them are running at the exact same time, and they call, I can pull it up and go, well, come on, man, like this is one time out of however many months or years or whatever it is at that point. It's just a really cool feature that we have, right? So with a tankless, normally they need a 10 or 15 second startup. So if it's any other brand of tankless, right, it has to come on when you ask for hot water unless it's already running. So this has a circulation pump built into the unit. This circulation pump is internal circulation only. You want to circulate outside the heater? Great, put a circulation pump. This is for us. Now this is a gigantic roughest pump, and the purpose of this pump is it is circulating the water within the cabinet. Like I said, we're trying to be a tank. Tanks have what? Hot water. The second you ask for hot water leaves the unit. Well, in order to meet that need, we do the same thing via a pump, right? So the pump's down there. So the second thing is tankless has huge pressure loss as it goes through the unit because they have tiny pipes, 90-degree turns, and it really slows the water. So a lot of times you're having to boost the water depending on the application. This also acts as a booster pump. So instead of having a 14-pound pressure drop, we have a half-pound pressure drop, just like a tank. So that's no longer an issue as well. In fact, even my wall units, which have the exact same heat exchanger, right? So like that model right there, that's a 1001, that's 1 million BTUs. You know what that means? It means there's 4 heat exchangers in there. 4 of the exact same heat exchanger with 4 of the exact same blower, with 4 of the exact same everything, right? Really easy. It's funny, I have no idea what my point was in saying what I was saying before that. This is why presentations are better. Anyhow.
Plumbers,
So,
man.
one of the points I like to make is, so I just said there's 4 heat exchangers in there. That's built-in redundancy. When you open that cabinet and you open the front door, there should be 4 boards sitting on the front of that unit. So if one fails, and I tell you, I was doing a startup on one of these back when we used to do combustion analyzation, which by the way, we no longer require combustion analyzation as of like a month ago or 3 weeks ago, when it was not long. So let me actually talk about that real quick. We don't require it because our combustion analyzer is like $10,000 combustion analyzer. And the ones out in the field are 500, 800, whatever the case may be. And we do this day after day after day, one right after the next. We figure we do it better than anybody. So unless for some reason it's just running rough, or you decide to take one to Colorado, so high altitude, or you switch from natural gas to propane, it's the only times you should touch this combustion analyzer. There's just no reason. So startups become really easy. So anyway, built-in redundancy. So the point I was going to make earlier is one of these actually 400,000 BTU units was in a casino, and I nicely laid either my ring or my watch, I can't remember, into the board, and I burned up the board as the damn thing was just installed. And in any other brand of water heater, the water heater would have stopped working. Just, you're done. You burned up the board. That's the brain, right? Well, because we have one for each, all that I had to do is disconnect a couple of the zip ties so that I could get the wire for the display off that board and plugged it into the board that would be sitting here. And they were running off one of the heat exchangers until the board came in. It took 2 days or whatever it was. Nobody else can do that. This is a true masterless design. So one, if I burned up one of the boards, it's going to run off the other. Two, if I burn up number one, which should be the one that's in full control, ours doesn't work that way. They're all in control equally. So if you mess up number one, the rest of them just don't know that one until you fix it. It just is not part of the equation. So if you were talking about a rack system or any other tankless system, you ruin number one, the whole system breaks or stops until you designate another unit as number one or you fix it. So I don't know if you knew that, but that's how those work, and that's how this one works. So I know there's not going to be a lot of probably propane installations of this product, but if you do any type of healthcare or anything like that where they have a dual fuel, in order to switch this thing from natural gas to propane, it's one dip switch. I would show you where it is, but I don't need to show you on the board because it says right here, wherever it is. There it is. It says that there's a dip switch and it says NG and LP. That is literally all that you have to do to switch this thing to propane, other than combustion analyze it to work on LP. If there's 8 heat exchangers, there's 8 boards, there's 8 dip switches. So a hospital in Oklahoma, when our gas grid was failing, gas prices skyrocketed. They said, I'm not paying that. They literally turned off the natural gas, turned off the unit, flipped the dip switches, turned on propane, and they ran the unit on propane for 2 weeks. It did not run great because it wasn't combustion analyzed for propane. But this is an emergency. It worked in an emergency for 2 weeks. And then after that was over, they turned it off, they did everything in reverse, and it's been running ever since perfectly fine. I think that is a hell of a selling point to anybody who just happens to have that need. This is probably one of the easier the products that we offer as far as out there that is in the world. And I tell you that because we put a water hammer arrestor in the unit. We don't say you need to add it, we added it. We felt the need for it. We didn't decide you needed to deal with that need. This specific unit and the future units, when we go to our generation 3, this one actually has a manometer built in. So in our gas valve, there's a manometer up here in the top. You can see the inches of water column on the screen. This is the newest unit to the pack, which is why it got that extra thing. But when we are redesigning everything to do all of the new stuff we want to do, right? We want to add the LTE chip to all of our bigger units. We did just add water hammer arrestor to all of our bigger units. We did that on the fly. That was a little easier. Not combustion, but actually that was part of it too. Having a manometer in there does help with doing your combustion, so we don't have to, worry about you doing it. But everything that we're designing is intentionally to make it easier for you. My error codes, they're not strange codes you have to go look up. When this thing has an error, if it does, it says electrode alert or electrode failure. It says pump alert. It will say, blower alert, whatever it is. It's telling you exactly where you need to start. You can go into this unit, and if you have 4 of these together, you can turn staging on and off. You can turn staging on and off on that one. So if you have a project where they need hot water and a lot of it really fast, turn staging off. That opens all the valves, gets it ready to go. If it's a business where the water is stepped in just certain times a day, turn the staging on. It'll go 70% on this heat exchanger, and then it'll kick this one on, and 70% on that heat exchanger, and so on and so forth. I say it like this, but it just chooses randomly to do even use over all the heat exchangers. So if you have them cascaded, it's going to make sure that everything's getting used equally. If it's in a single unit, it's going to do the same thing. It's designed to last a long time. We have, on the screen, we have life bars. I don't know what else to call them, but it tells you the life of even your O-rings, right? So it's your blower, it's your water control valve, it's your O-rings. And it's a bar that slowly goes down. When you get to that, on the screen there's a plus and a minus sign. If you want to see the whole unit, it'll have a little plus. When you click that plus, you can actually touch each heat exchanger on the screen, and it'll show you everything you want to know about that specific heat exchanger.